There's a moment of silence. The world stops for a second, and then there's the most blood-curdling, god-awful scream that you have ever imagined. The hand retreats. The next sound I think I hear is Stumpy falling backward over one of our guy ropes on the tent and landing in our Garden of Eden of crosses. God was on our side.
From NCPR and the Adirondack Center for Writing, this is The Howl. True stories, no notes. I'm Ethan Shanty. So I've basically told you all of the exciting camping stories that I have. You've heard all about my trips deep into the woods with my family. You've heard about how my Uncle John tried to convince me that Bigfoot would kill me and smash my bones if I left my tent in the middle of the night. And today's story is all about Boy Scout camp. And I don't have a story for that. But my younger brother Ian spent a lot of years in Scouts, and I remember a few summers where we would drop him off at camp. But for me, the idea of being out in the woods for weeks at a time never really did much for me. I was definitely an indoor kind of kid. The thought of being away from AOL Instant Messenger for more than an hour was enough to cause a panic attack. But not so for Ian, who is my Irish twin, 18 months younger than I am. And he normally lives in Phoenix, Arizona, but he's been visiting the North Country for the last week to join me and our 67 other brothers on our annual camping trip. And he is here in the studio with me right now. Hey, Ian.
Hello, Ethan. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming in. So Boy Scout camp was your idea? Because when we were kids, like a lot of the stuff that we got into is because our folks wanted to get us out of the house or, wanted us to burn off some energy or whatever, like mom signing me up for gymnastics. But was scouting your idea?
I think inherently, no. Mom just decided you're going to be involved in this activity and you're going to be involved in this activity. You're going to have fun. You don't have a say in the matter. So that is how I ended up being a Boy Scout of America and going to our annual camping trip for Boy Scouts.
How many years were you in Boy Scouts?
I think I was involved in the Boy Scouts from like 3rd grade until about 7th grade, give or take.
Okay, so
like right around the time where actual hormones kicked in. And then I decided I want no part of this.
Right. But you never got to the level of like Eagle Scout or anything like that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you were never interested in doing that. It was just like, oh, mom wants me to go, so I guess I'll do it for a little while.
Well, it was a fun activity. Like Boy Scouts is this weird melting pot where, you have your future jock kids and you have your future theater kids and you're just straight up nerds and we're all stuck together and end up forming our own bonds because we're at Boy Scouts.
Okay, got it.
But no, I was absolutely not interested in actually pursuing, the highest level of Boy Scouts, which was Eagle Scout. Mm-hmm. And that was a big part of going to the summer camp because periodically when you would meet for Boy Scouts, we would meet once a week at the municipal building. We would do this activity or that activity, and sometimes it would be geared towards getting our quote-unquote badges. And once you get enough badges, that's how you level up in the Boy Scout hierarchy and eventually attain Eagle Scout. And there's basically the kids who are very dedicated to getting all their badges so that way they can have that accomplishment. And then there's kids like me who just want to hang out and play kickball, and I will do the badges if I have to.
Okay, so tell me about getting lost in the woods. Set the scene for me. Where are we? What's happening?
Okay, so in the last couple of years of being involved in the Boy Scouts, we went on this annual camping trip to Camp Massaweepy, which was just this sprawling, giant, summer camp. And there would be hundreds of different Boy Scouts from different troops from all over the North Country. We would all come together for camaraderie, hanging out, and, pursuing our badges. So we did a lot of activities at Camp Massaweepy. There was the whole concept of we were there to work on our badges, but overall it was just about having fun, hanging out in the woods as Troop 44. And, that would revolve around going to the store and buying slushies and Charleston chews or having the big track and field day at the end of camp. But absolutely one of my favorite things was the fact that one of our adult counselors was adamant that he was going to catch a chipmunk so that we could eat it. And he started setting up all these elaborate traps around our campsite with, strings and boxes in order to catch one. But, of course, because it was Mr. and I'm pretty sure most of the things that he thought of were absolute nonsense, we never actually caught one. When I went to Boy Scout camp, it was, you have to sign up for what, classes you're going to do in order to get your badges. And the only ones that I remember ever doing were from that year where I got lost, and that was I took a class for swimming because I absolutely loved swimming back then. And I took one that was the equivalent of like the rod and gun club. Naturally, because of the fact that, you have a bunch of adolescents who are practicing with guns, the rod and gun club was out in the middle of nowhere, like miles upon miles away from everything else. In order to get there, you had to take a shuttle in the morning in order to go out for the badge class. They told me, meet here for the shuttle. They'll take you out there, and then once you're done, they'll take you back. And I was late. I missed the shuttle. And so naturally, juvenile Ian asked an adult, how do I get there? And they were like, oh, okay, you see this T in the road? Just take it right, follow the trail, you can't miss it. So me, trusting an adult, I did exactly that. And I started walking down this dirt road out towards the woods, and I just kept walking. And I just kept walking. And for a while, it never occurred to me that I could have done something wrong. Like I didn't realize I had made a terrible mistake by doing this. So I kept walking, and just further out, I walked miles. To this day, I have no idea how far I actually got. I'm just walking along, and eventually it starts to sit in of, I'm probably not doing something right. I may or may not be lost. So I just kept walking because I was committed. Like, I don't know what else to do. Either I'm going to keep walking and I'm going to find the Rod and Gun Club class, or I'm just going to get lost because I'm not turning around. I ain't going to do it. So kept walking miles, and eventually I stumbled upon the old Camp Massaweepy that had been abandoned for years. And so it's like a mirror-verse version of the Camp Massaweepy that we have, except for everything is overgrown with vines and weeds and ferns, and it's straight out of a horror movie. Like, you remember watching the Friday the 13th movies, and the original Camp Crystal Lake got shut down because of, the murders. And so when they see the old campsite, it's exactly that. It's just a mirror version, but just reclaimed by nature. And so I'm walking through this, and at that point, that's when I legitimately was starting to get worried, because we watched a lot of horror movies as kids, and that's exactly what that looked like. So finally, I make it through the, abandoned Camp Massaweepy. Didn't get murdered at that point, so that was good. And by a stroke of luck, a jogger stumbled upon me. Just this, old guy. I just remember he had a mustache and curly hair. Don't know his name. I don't want to know his name. And he was, absolutely shocked to find me out here in the woods. And he's just like, what are you doing here? Where are you supposed to be? Doing my best to contain myself, because at that point I was honestly, truly panicked. And I told him, and by tell him, I mean, doing my best not to break down in front of the stranger, I told him that I was trying to go to the Rod and Gun Club class. And he was shocked because I was miles away from where I was supposed to be somehow. And so then he's like, okay, follow me. We're going to get you there. If you're listening to this, man, with your mustache and curly hair, thank you. Because probably that could have gone disastrously different had you not found me. He takes me, and we go in a different direction, and we're taking all sorts of shortcuts on the trails and twisting and turning, and to finally get to the Rod and Gun Club. And then, once I get there, I'm emotionally a mess. This instructor for the badge class was this, old, short, bald man who clearly had taken another man's life in some war or another, and absolutely is just mean-mugging me because I was late. Not because I got lost in the woods or anything, but I was late for his class. And so the first thing that happens is he has me come up to take my gun to practice shooting. And I don't know any of the regulations or rules for his class. And he just treats me like a complete imbecile because I didn't know what to do or what he wanted. And again, I'm very close to breaking down and just as I take this rifle from this stranger to, practice guns. I completed the last portion of the class that day, and then the shuttle took us back, and I never went back. I didn't tell any of the adults in our troop that I wasn't doing it. Just at that allotted portion of the day, I just stayed in my tent or hung out or whatever, because I wasn't doing that again.
Did you ever tell mom and dad that story?
I thought I did. And then last night when I was talking to Mom about us recording this, she was, you never told me that. So honestly, I have no idea.
I'm surprised that you ever have gone into the woods again.
Obviously, as you've talked about on this show, I was very accident prone as a youth. So I'm not going to be deterred just because I got lost in the woods. I'm going to go back into the woods and I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to reclaim that time.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome, Ethan.
Okay, so let's get into today's story, which comes from Rick Kovacs from Wanakena. He told the story live on stage at the 2024 Howell Grand Slam in Saranac Lake.
All right, we're going to head to the dark side of storytelling for this story. It's 1964. I'm 10 and a half years old. I'm in an inner city Boy Scout troop that had been in place for quite a while. I am there with a bunch of other new recruits, and we are in a car hurtling to the howling wilderness, which in our case was a small campground in southern New Hampshire, to have a first weekend camp out of the season and my first camp out ever. So along the way, I'm in a car full of tenderfoot scouts, and the car is filled with cigarette smoking from our chain smoking assistant scoutmaster. As we go hurtling down the road at 50 miles an hour, he drops his lit cigarette, and I'm sitting up front in the middle, so I was prone to car sickness, and he instructs me to take the wheel, and while he fumbles around for the cigarette. So we get to the campground, we set up our long row of Baker tents, which is a big canvas tent that shaped in the Adirondack lean-to style. It's got a big canvas weather flap over the front of it. We've also been instructed to grab two 12-inch pieces of stick and lash together a cross and point that cross and stick it in the ground in front of us, because this was a predominantly Catholic troop, and this would lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. So, it's the end of my first campfire, a bunch of songs and skits, and then I hear for the first time in my life the legend of the troop's legend of Stumpy, who is a scoutmaster of old, who led his scouts on a hike and had the misfortune to fall and fracture his leg. And his scouts, new tenderfoots, had not paid close enough attention to the first aid training, and they botched the job. He woke up 2 days later in the hospital with his leg amputated below the knee. He was mad in every sense of the word, and at that point declared that he was going to get even and wreak havoc on all new scouts who do not pay close attention to the skills training that's happening. So we retired to bed with that in mind, and in 2 hours we're woken up by one of the leaders. We're our tent full of tenderfoots, and we are come out in various stages of dress or undress and form a line, we're told, and with our crosses held in our right hand and our hand on the shoulder of the scout in front of us. We are marched through the dark woods to a circle lit by a single dim Coleman lantern. Had a picnic table in the middle of it, and hog-tied to the picnic table is our junior assistant scoutmaster, and he's pleading for his life. And so we are frozen in fear. We're looking at this, and into the light step, the dim light steps Stumpy. And Stumpy has an old style scout shirt on. He's got horrible features, long stringy hair, and your worst nightmare. On his head is an old campaign hat, tattered up, and he's got a crooked branch under his arm, and he's got an axe over his head. And he holds forth about all of the wrongs done to him back in the day, and that he was sworn to wreak havoc again on scouts that did not pay attention to what they were supposed to be paying attention to. So, this is long before ADHD, by the way. So, all of a sudden, the lantern goes out. Somebody yells, "Run!" And run we do. We run into each other. We fall down. We get up. We run over to our tent, all except for one boy who ran past the tent, out of the campground, and was picked up a quarter mile down the highway with the cross in his hand. He was running back to Connecticut. Okay, fast forward, end of the summer now, actually the fall. We are in our state forest, a couple of towns above our city, and same row of tents, the same campfire. The fire's finished, and we were in our tent, wondering if this was one of the nights that had happened several times over the summer on campouts, that Stumpy would be visiting us yet again. And almost immediately, we hear a howl out in the forest, and so here comes Stumpy. We can hear him coming down the row of Baker tents there, and his standard operating procedure was to reach in, grab a scout, stuff him into the bottom of the bag, drag him out, and leave him in the pucker brush to contemplate a straight and narrow life. So, our bags are up to our chins. We're awaiting our fate, and all except for one scout. His name was Buzzy, and he is fully dressed, kneeling on his sleeping bag, and in his left hand is a official BSA right-angled flashlight, and in his left hand, in his right hand is a dull, rusty hatchet that he has smuggled from home. And he is taking the Scout motto, "Be prepared," to the next limit. So, all of a sudden, Stumpy is outside of the tent. We can hear him scratch on the canvas flap. His hand comes underneath, and it's a gloved hand, it's a black glove, and the tips have been painted red. So Buzzy flicks on the light, raises up the hatchet, and for the Marine in Vietnam that he will be someday, he brings down that hatchet for God in the Corps onto that hand. There's a moment of silence. The world stops for a second, and then there's the most blood-curdling, god-awful scream that you have ever imagined. The hand retreats. The next sound I think I hear is Stumpy falling backward over one of our guy ropes on the tent and landing in our Garden of Eden of crosses there. God was on our side. Fast forward. It's a scout meeting. It's the regular scout meeting the following Thursday, and we're milling about waiting for the meeting to happen. The door opens to the church basement, and in comes Dickie Ciotti, an assistant scoutmaster, and as he takes off his jacket, I see that he has a cast on his arm up to his wrist, and his purple swollen fingers sticking out of the other end. So I look at that, and I look up, and I see Buzzy sitting on his hands on a table across the meeting room, and he has also seen that cast. Our eyes lock. He looks at me, and he has a very slight Mona Lisa type smile, and he nods his head once, and I nod my head back, and in that moment I have taken a small leap out of the warped fairy tale of my childhood into the karmic reality of the world. Okay? May the great Scout Master of all good scouts be with you until we meet again.
That's going to do it for this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Rick for the story. Thanks to my brother Ian for coming into the studio. And before you go, I got to let you know, we just launched the Howl newsletter. So if you want even more stories delivered to your inbox every week, you've got to sign up. I just told a story on there about the time that I got put in the spotlight at a drag show, which was super embarrassing. And I've got lots more stories than I could ever fit into this podcast. So sign up right now, ncpr.org/subscribe. Email subscribers also have an exclusive chance to pitch me their story and appear on this podcast in the future. Come back next week. We'll hear a story from Meg McDonald, whose grandmother was a spectacular thief.
Mom and I went over to have lunch with her. Mom was preoccupied with this lamp that had appeared on one of the end tables in the living room next to the couch. And she kept asking Grandma, like, that's a new lamp. Where'd you get that? And I was like, Mom, why do you care where Grandma get this lamp from? Like, why do you care? And she said, oh, no reason. It just coincidentally looks very similar to the one in our hotel room this weekend.
This show is written, produced, and edited by me. I'm Ethan Shanty. Doyle Dean is our production manager. Caitlin Kelly handles our social media. Bill Hanel is our digital director. David Summerstein edits my scripts. And you make this show possible with your donations. Support The Howl right now by making a gift at our website and find out when we're going to be telling live stories in a town near you. Visit ncpr.org/howl. And oh yeah, our theme music is by famous letter writer of Plattsburgh. We'll see you next week. For North Country Public Radio, I'm Ethan Shanty. This is the Howl Podcast.